In the West, people rarely stay in relationships because of love alone.
More often, they stay.
Because the relationship has become psychologically familiar, not safe, not healthy, just familiar. And that is where tonight's discussion begins. This is not a lecture about jealousy. It is not merely about toxic relationships, suspicion, or insecurity. This is about a far darker psychological mechanism. Why do some people continue returning to relationships that repeatedly hurt them? Why do people fight, cry, accuse, threaten to leave, and yet remain emotionally chained to each other? And perhaps the most uncomfortable question of all, why does the mind often trust fear more than reality? The ancient Buddhist text, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, offers a chilling answer. It says, fear does not come from the outside world. It is a projection created by the mind itself. Most people never truly understand this idea because we prefer to believe. The problem is them. My partner caused this. My past ruined me. My environment made me anxious. But this ancient teaching confronts us directly. It argues that human beings rarely see reality itself. Instead, we see interpretations shaped by memory, fear, and emotional conditioning. And once those interpretations harden into certainty, they begin controlling our entire lives. That is why some people can look at a harmless text message and feel betrayal. Why silence feels like abandonment. Why a delayed phone call becomes evidence of infidelity. The external event is often small, but internally, the emotional reaction is enormous. Why? Because the mind is not reacting to the present moment. It is reacting to unresolved emotional history. Modern psychology would call this attachment trauma. The ancient Eastern traditions described it differently. A person wandering inside illusions created by unresolved fear. And this is where the cycle becomes dangerous. Many people believe they are afraid of losing someone, but psychologically that is often not true. What they truly fear is re-experiencing an old emotional wound. A child who emotionally felt abandoned may later become an adult who constantly suspects betrayal. A teenager, repeatedly compared to others, may grow into someone who sees every attractive stranger as a threat. Someone ignored or humiliated in youth may eventually interpret neutral behavior as rejection. The relationship itself becomes a stage where old memories replay themselves endlessly. This is why some couples spend years trapped in the same emotional war. The argument changes. The people may even change, but the emotional structure remains identical. And here is the disturbing part. The mind eventually becomes addicted to emotional intensity, not happiness, not peace, intensity. Chaos begins to feel more emotionally real than calmness. For some people, conflict becomes proof of love. Suspicion becomes proof of attachment. Emotional pain becomes proof that the relationship matters. Without realizing it, they begin choosing familiar suffering over unfamiliar peace. This explains why some individuals leave one toxic relationship, only to enter another one with the exact same emotional dynamics. Different face, same emotional architecture. The ancient text warns about this repeatedly. It says that humans wander endlessly through mental projections, mistaking them for reality. That statement sounds mystical until you observe modern relationships. How many people are truly reacting to what is happening now? And how many are reacting to ghosts from 10, 20, or 30 years ago? This does not mean every suspicion is false. Real betrayal exists. Real manipulation exists. Real deception exists. But psychological suffering becomes destructive when interpretation freezes into certainty. At that point, people stop observing reality. They begin defending the version of reality created by fear. And once that happens, every interaction becomes distorted. A smile becomes suspicious. Distance becomes abandonment. Independence becomes betrayal. The relationship slowly transforms into emotional surveillance. But perhaps the deepest insight is this. The greatest prison is not another person. It is the emotional identity built around pain. Many people unconsciously organize their identity around being rejected, abandoned, ignored, or betrayed. And because the identity feels familiar, the mind continues recreating situations that confirm it. This is why healing is so difficult. Because healing does not merely require leaving a relationship. It requires abandoning the emotional story you built about yourself. The story that says, I will always be replaced. I am never enough. People eventually leave. Love is competition. Trust is dangerous. The moment those beliefs become absolute, the mind no longer experiences relationships objectively. It experiences them symbolically. Every person becomes a threat. Every disagreement becomes prophecy. Every fear becomes evidence. That is why repeating emotional patterns are not simply relationship problems. They are perception problems. And until perception changes, the pattern simply finds a new target. So tonight, I want to leave you with a difficult question. What if the greatest source of suffering in your relationships is not what people did to you, but the meaning your mind continues, attaching to experiences that already ended long ago? Because according to both psychology and ancient philosophy, the past survives only when consciousness keeps feeding it. And the moment you stop treating old fear as present reality, the cycle finally begins to weaken. Not instantly, not magically, but consciously. If this discussion made you uncomfortable, that may be a sign that you recognized part of yourself inside it. And recognition is where transformation begins. In the next lecture, we will go even deeper into why emotionally destructive relationships become psychologically addictive, why some people cannot leave even when they are suffering, and how emotional trauma gradually transforms into an entire worldview. If you want to continue exploring the hidden architecture of human relationships, emotional addiction, and psychological perception, be sure to subscribe, like, and share this lecture with others who may need to hear it.